Hello and welcome to your 7th tutorial on CSS. Today we'll talk about creating a menu for our web page using our CSS code. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a simple list. As you can see here, I have my UL tag and my LI tag, and I've added in an A tag with the href attribute and its text, which will say home, and I've closed my A tag and I've closed my LI tag. So let's duplicate this and let's change this home to, let's say, about, and let's change the next one to news, and let's change this one to contacts. So when we save and refresh, we should get this simple list of our menu options in hyperlinks. And so let's get rid of the bullet points using our CSS internal style sheet. So let's type in UL, open and close your curly braces, and inside type in list style, and we're gonna write none. So this means that there won't be any bullet points. Here we go. And so next, let's add in a body selector, and let's get rid of the margin. So type in 0. So that's from the top. There will be no margin. And we save and refresh. As you can see, we got rid of the margin. And so let's add a border to our menu. And in our UL, we're going to type in padding, and let's write 0. And let's write border 1px, so pixels, solid. And let's give it a color, a light gray. So it's about 231 of each colors mixed to get this. And so let's save and refresh, and as you can see, we have our border. And so let's just make our border a little bit darker. Here we go, here. And let's also add in a background, so type in background, and let's give this F3, F3, F3. Save and refresh, and so we get the background as a lighter gray. And so let's make an LI tag. Let's make an LI in our code, and let's close it as well. And inside, let's write float left, just so we have our options lined up to the right. And so as you can see, this LI is for all of our LIs. And so if we wanted to work for LI A, so what's here in here, so our LI tag with our A tag, we're going to write LI A and then open and close our curly braces. And let's give it some properties. So let's write color, and let's write 77, and let's write text align, and let's write the value center, and let's also add a display block, so in blocks. And let's add padding 14 pixels, 16 pixels. And so let's save and refresh, and so here we have our menu options, and as you can see, they're all underlined. So to get rid of the underline, we type in text decoration and type in none. Save, refresh. Here we go. And let's move on, and let's make another LI, and let's type in A and a colon and hover. So this is for the option, so when we hover over it, something will happen. And so let's open our curly brace, and let's also close it. And inside of it, let's write background, hashtag, and DDD, which is also a grayish color. And so as you can see, here we have our hover element. And so in here, let's type in another colon after hover, and let's type in not brackets, and let's type in dot active. And so in our div for, let's say, about, let's write a class attribute, and let's type in active, and let's save and refresh. You can see that it works for home, it works for news, and it works for contacts, so the hover option. However, it doesn't work for our active element, for about, as it's active. And so what we can do is we can go back into our code, and so let's add in LI A dot active, and let's open and close our curly braces. And so inside, let's give it the color property, and let's type in white, and let's write the background property as well, and let's give it a color, so 4CAF50. And so let's go back into here and let's select this and let's move it down here, and let's get rid of this not active. And so when I save and refresh this, you can see that now when I hover over about, I can still get the gray as we just deleted the not active. And so let's say we want to add it back, and when we save and refresh, you can see that it's still the same. It's in its active mode. That's why the hover doesn't work. So as you can see, we have our A tag, and then we have hover, and then not active. And so this means that anything in our A tag that is being hovered over, which is not active, will be gray. So as you can see, I have the active only for about, that's why it's not turning gray. And so let's go back to our original menu. So let's just comment over here, and we're gonna write this, and we're gonna close it here. And so when we refresh, we go back to our original in vertical order list, so our menu. And so let's go back to our code after our commented area. Let's type in UL, and let's open and close our curly braces, and inside let's add some properties. So let's type in list style type none, and then let's write padding 0, and then let's add margin also 0. Let's add it width, so 25%, and let's also add background, and let's also write position fixed, and lastly height 100%. So let's save and refresh. As you can see, we have now this border around our menu, and let's also just quickly copy this and bring it to our current code. Save and refresh, and here we go. And so let's go back to our code and let's write an LIA selector, and let's write display block color. Let's just give it a plain color 000, and let's type in padding. So let's type in 8 pixels 0, 8 pixels again, and lastly 16 pixels. And let's also add in text decoration, so we'll get rid of any underlines or anything, and let's type in none. And so let's now close our curly brace, and so let's also add in LIA colon, and let's give it the hover not active. Open your curly brace and close it, and inside of it let's give some properties. So background hashtag 555, and you can just add in any colors that you like. I'm just doing this randomly. White, and yeah, so that's it. And let's save, refresh, and as you can see here we have our menu buttons, let's say. And as you can see, my hover element is working for my non-active buttons, so LIs, and as I'm active on about, as you can see here, it's not doing anything using the hover element. So let's add in LIA.active, open your curly brace, and let's write the color white, and let's also give it the same background as before, so the greenish color, which is 4CAF50, and let's close our curly brace, save, fresh, and as you can see, I now have my active LI in green. So I just randomly chose the about area to put in my class active attribute. So we need to change our active class when we want it to be at a specific place. And so let's say I want this active and paste it to news. Here we go. And so when we save and refresh, you can see that now my news area is active. And so let's give this section some properties. So we're gonna type in the section selector, and we're gonna write width 70% and height auto and background silver. And I should have shown you this one by one, but we will still get a good result. And so if we want to see this, just after here, after our closing UL tag, we're gonna write section and we're gonna close it, and let's just write random text, and let's close our section tag. And so when we save and refresh, we get this due to our properties in our code. And let's also add a margin left to this, 25%. Save, refresh, here we go. And let's go back to our section area and let's write another text. However, let's add in a BR tag and let's write text 2. And so when we save and refresh, we'll get two texts. And so we can easily just change our properties. So I can change width to 73%, something like this, which is a light color. Save, refresh, here we go. As you can see, it got a little bit lighter. And let's also change margin left from, let's say, 25 to 26 for example, and save, refresh, here we have it. And so let's say we were to open this page with, let's say, a phone or something. As you can see, my box does not change. So this section, to be correct, so this section won't actually move from its margins or anything. It will still keep its it's 26% margin and its width and everything. So if you were to open it on a phone, it would still work perfectly fine. And so this is called responsive, and we'll talk more about this in a later video. And so let's move on and let's just comment on this area. So just comment on everything here, and let's also comment in our body section. So just before UL, we're gonna type in and we're gonna close it after section. Here we go. And so let's move on and let's add a background to our page. So I'm gonna type in background and I'm gonna type in this. So URL, and inside is my picture. However, as you can see, I've used pictures gifs slash, which is pictures gifs is basically just my folder. And so if your image is stored in a folder, it needs to have this element. And so when I save and refresh, we'll get this picture. And so let's make it a cover, non-repeated as well. And I'm gonna write cover, save and refresh, and here we have our cover. However, as you can see, it's really in bad quality, so I'll just do this so you can see a little bit better. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add some animation, but first of all, in our body section, we're going to add in a div, and close your div, and inside let's type in an ID equals sign, 2 quotation marks, and let's give it a T1. And so let's give our T1 some measurements in our CSS code. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in hashtag T1. We're just going to give it some height, width, background properties. So first of all, I'm going to write height 70 pixels, width also 70 pixels, and I'm going to give it its picture, which will be later on animated, URL, and it's also in my pictures gifs folder, so it's called snowf.png, and I'm also gonna add a background size, and I missed the G, here we go, background size, cover, and position absolute and left, so it will be to the left to 0, so it will be right at the top, and I'm going to give it 5 pixels from the top. And let's close our curly brace, and I forgot to open it here. And so when we save and refresh, we get our snowflake at the top left corner of our web page. And so let's give it some animation. So what we're going to do, just before T1, we're going to write an @ and we're going to write keyframes. And we're going to give our keyframe a name. So for me, I'll name it snow. And I'll open and close my curly braces. And inside of it, I'm just going to write 0% curly brace, and inside I'm going to write left, colon, 0 pixels, semicolon, and from the top I'll give it 10 pixels. And so let's duplicate this and let's change the first values. So this is the percentage of the page that they'll be at. So at 0% it will be from the left 0 pixels, and from the top at 10 pixels. From 25 pixels, let's change top to 100. From 50, let's change it to 500, and let's change it to 800 for 75. And let's also add transform rotate, so we'll give it a rotation. And let's say I want it to be 50 degrees. I'm going to type 50 deg, DEG, and this is 75 pixels, by the way. And we need to also add in a 100%. Here we go. And so let's just change it to 360 degrees. 360 degrees, so a full rotation. And so this keyframe won't work without putting its name in our T1 code. So just after this, we're gonna write animation snow, and I'm gonna give it its time, so 8 seconds, and its rotation will be 15 times, so it will go on and on for 15 times. And we need to also add this with WebKit. And when we save and refresh, we'll get our animation. Here we go. Here it is. And so next what we're going to do is we're going to add in a couple of more divs, and let's just change the T values. So 2, 3, 4, so we number them accordingly. And what we're going to do is we need to add a keyframe for each one. So let's go up here and let's copy our keyframes element, copy and paste it just after, and let's give it a different name. So let's say snow 1, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change the left value to 100 for each of them, and I'm also going to add in a comma after this T1, and I'm gonna write T2. And so the last thing that we need to do is just after our code, we need to type in a hashtag T1 curly brace, close your curly brace, and inside our curly braces we're going to give it the designated values. So for T1, left is at 0, and for T2 it's at 100 pixels. And the other thing that we need to do is we need to copy this and let's paste it here. And so T1 is snow, so we're just keeping it like this. And for this one, I'm going to change snow to snow 1 as it's the second one. And when we save and refresh, and we need to change this T1 to T2, and let's save, refresh, and let's also get rid of this, and let's save, refresh, and we also need to change this snow to snow 1 as well, so it will work. And let's save, refresh, and here we have our 2 snowflakes. Here we go. And another thing that we can do is we can change the times. So I can change T2, so the snow 1 animation, from 8 seconds to, let's say, 5 seconds. And for its keyframe, which is snow 1, let's change, so at 50%, let's add in transform rotates 50 degrees, and at 75 let's have it at 90 degrees. And yeah, you can just mess around with it and just change any of the degrees or pixels and the percentages, etc. And so yeah, that was all that I had prepared for today. Thank you so much for watching.